we shall cut to the chase quickly. I bought the 2026 Dell XPS 14. I also bought the 2025, so I can compare it in this video. This is a massively refined laptop this year. The 2026 is so refined. It is equipped with the Panther Lake CPUs. I got the good one, the 358H, which has that awesome iGPU. This thing is over-engineered and refined from top to bottom to make it probably a top 10 laptop for me. Top 10 ever laptop for me. Isn't that impressive? We'll jump into the review, but before we jump into the review, I put some video description, links in the video description down below. I don't take any sponsors. Affiliate links help me a lot. I bought all these. They get really expensive. We're not going to dilly-dally on pricing. Pricing is really expensive. It's 2025, 2026. Everything's expensive. But one little spoiler for this video. The screen on this laptop is crazy. The screen on this laptop is crazy. The audio is also crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. Let's jump in. So this is the Dell website. We're just on the American one. You can have your own local ones as well. So there's three options here in terms of like the pre-designed ones. You can also customize. We'll look at that in a sec. Pricing, I mean, things go up and down. I don't really look at the pricing too much. Things are kind of pricey right now with all the RAM and SSD prices going up. It's not really Dell's fault. It's just the way it is. But, at least here, you're buying into like essentially a Halo super premium laptop. They've done a full chassis redesign this year. It's quite nice, and I'm going to be comparing them here. So we have three options here. We have the Core Ultra 355, and then we have these two here. The 355, it's okay. It's basically a Lunar Lake chip, really. Honestly, it's basically the 258V rebadged, more or less. So it's an 8-core CPU, really good in terms of battery efficiency, that kind of stuff. But you're not getting all the RAM and all that kind of stuff here. A lower spec screen. It's not a bad screen, but it's not not the same we have today. Leapfrogging over here is what we have today. So we have the 358H, which is an incredible CPU. That is actually equipped with the B390, doesn't say here, but this is the B390 iGPU. At the time this video right now is going live, the past like 10 videos that I have published have been on a gaming handheld, the One X Player 3, that comes with this iGPU here. And it's crazy how good it is. I will do little gaming in this video, but honestly, you want to see how well this thing's games, just watch my last 10 videos. Honestly, it's crazy how good this thing is. 32 gigabytes of RAM, nice and fast, and then an insanely good screen, right? Like 3.2K or 2000p OLED screen, anti-gloss. It's so good. Okay, so let's compare the chassis here. This is the 2024 model, the 2025 model. This is the 2026 model. Major revisions, major revisions. Obviously, there's the color. That's an option. This is the choice. It comes in both, right? It's a thinner, smaller laptop, right? So let's go like that there. It is about 1 centimeter narrower that way. Little bit shorter front to back, because this has this like angular bum. Little bit shorter front to back. Much thinner though, much thinner. Hopefully that shows up on camera. Yeah, you can see it. It's more noticeable in person. This is, has curved tapered edges, which does make it look like it has a slimmer profile, whereas this has the more squared off, which I prefer, of course. This is a much thinner laptop though, so it is noticeably more refined this year in terms of the thinness. It just looks nice. Like they changed the logo there from Dell to XPS. They went back to the XPS name, right? This was the Dell 14 Premium Pro Plus. Then they had it in parentheses, XPS. That was a mistake to change the name. Yeah, they changed that. Inside though, pretty similar. They look different, but same idea, where that's the chassis here. The difference with this laptop is when you open it, you have to remove that out of there, whereas this has a traditional bottom to come off. So this is a little bit harder to open. Well, it's a lot harder to open. This is very simple. This is more difficult. Much more refined in general, but generally, I mean, the XPS was always refined. So that's that there. Now there's a huge weight difference too. Again, these are both my laptops, so I bought them and I was just like, let's play with them. I actually bought this one first and I was like, let's buy the previous gen to get an idea. And then when I got it, I was like, man, that thing's heavy by comparison. Look at that. So that's 1,400 grams. It's around 3 pounds. Again, this is a metal laptop, so I did not expect it to be 1 pound because it's a metal premium laptop. But look at the weight of this one. 1,800, so it's 400 grams more. For Americans, that would be over half a pound more in weight. Yeah, little over half a pound more. So that's a big weight drop. So not only is this year it much more refined in terms of design, it's also lighter. Otherwise, though, they are pretty similar, right? So on the left side here, we have dual Thunderbolt 4. Dual Thunderbolt 4. No difference. Right side there, another USB-C, another USB-C. microphone, headphone combo jack. But then here we have a SD card that's gone, been killed off. Audio type stuff here, same. Very nice. Audio comes out, audio goes in. Exhaust out the back, same idea, same idea. So, I mean, there was nothing wrong with this generation of Dell XPS. Like inherently, it wasn't like a bad. It was like a little heavy for 14-inch. I always noticed that. I was like, it's a bit heavy. It's fine, but it's a bit heavy. And for a refined premium style laptop, I was always like, it's kind of like big, I guess. This is much more refined, right? So if you were to compare this to other laptops, I guess the closest thing in terms of look would be a MacBook Pro 14-inch. This is thinner than a MacBook Pro, by the way. Just so you know, it's much thinner than a MacBook Pro. I have used many a MacBook Pro. They're a little bit thicker, to be honest, probably 2 millimeters or at least 1 millimeter thicker, and heavier too. MacBook Pros are heavy. This has the same type of simplistic, clean design, which is this is what people want now. Whether you like it or not, this is what people want now. So it's much more refined than it was. Like, this is still a nice looking laptop, but this, you can tell this is like an older design principle, maybe even going back from like 2010, 2015 era. Like, this looks like a 2015 laptop. It just does. This looks like a 2026 laptop. Again, I'm not saying that's good or bad. That's just what has happened. Very nice. So very, very, very refined. Premium laptop. You're going to pull this out. I mean, you get a lot of the premiumness of the most premium type laptops, such as a MacBook Pro. But you don't have to run Mac OS. And oh my God, is that ever a effing blessing. Windows is not the best operating system around. Well, sorry, I guess it is, unfortunately. I guess it is, unfortunately, the best operating system around for like general use. Yeah, it doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean Windows is good. You can see the keyboard has the same type of keyboard. So I don't need to do too much of like a typing comparison. They feel exactly the same. Just, you know, the physical keyboard feels exactly the same. But there's a pretty considerable difference in terms of how they're designed, right? This here, you know, you don't have the little bars on there that give, you know, that design element there. I don't care at all, to be honest. It makes no difference to me. This is physically a bigger key. They're actually slightly bigger. So they've shrunk down this over here just a little bit, which made the keyboard a tiny bit bigger. So that's cool. I didn't really notice that until I had them side by side, but yes, it is slightly bigger. The enter key here is slightly smaller, technically. The shift key here is slightly smaller, but on this side, it's actually slightly bigger. That's interesting. The touchpad, you don't know where the touchpad ends and finishes over here because it's just like a blank thing. Here, it's very obvious, right? There is no difference. Like that's just a bump, like a little tiny like accent on the thing, just to make you feel where it is. But that is where the keyboard, like the trackpad, actually exists, right? It's in there. It's haptic, right? So there's no like physical plunge. Obviously, it's one coherent piece. So there's no plunging mechanism, and it's also going to be obviously haptic touch, capacitive touch, all that kind of stuff. So it detects when you're touching it, just like a normal trackpad. When you press it, it will not physically plunge. There's a little haptic motor in there. Again, if you don't use these, the closest thing, if you're using like just like the generic whatever laptop, we have Mac. Most Macs these days use, unless it's a Neo. Most of the more normal Macs use haptic. So when you press that, there's a little rumble. But otherwise, I mean, you may like or you may dislike this type of keyboard here where we don't have a ton of separation between them. So you can, I mean, it's very obvious, right? We have very little separation between the keys here. Obviously, people like it because they buy these and they keep buying them. I'm not as used to it because I don't use this type of keyboard very often. I have now because these are both my laptops. But, you know, on a day-to-day thing, I use keyboards that are more traditional. Let's just grab some Surface thing. Nothing special, obviously, but you can see there, like those have separations between the keys, right? Like physically separations. So that's more what I am used to. It does take a moment to get used to this, right? We'll come over here and we'll do a quick type. But as a result, once you do get used to it, I mean, it's a very nice keyboard. It has a ton of travel. It's not like a MacBook or anything like that. It's just that the keys are not as separated. So let's give a quick type here. Yeah, so I don't know if you noticed that, but like I made like a couple errors, but I fixed them. I didn't have any actual typos. right? And I was reasonably fast. I'm also typing at the weirdest. I'm over here. This is where I'm sitting. I'm actually over here, right? My hands, like this is my body. So I'm actually leaning over to type, like around the camera. And I was fast. I've only used this laptop. I mean, I've used these laptops for a few days now to get the hang of them, but I've only been like, let's use this laptop for a day to really get the hang of the keyboard, that kind of stuff. Probably only an hour or two, like of actually typing on this thing. Like I don't have all my software loaded up. I'm not like on Discord typing on this thing. It's just been messing about with it. And you can see how quickly I adapted to this keyboard. I am by no means like used to this type of keyboard. When you first get it, the first few minutes of typing on it, you'll be like, well, this is weird. Because of the separation, you will actually be like, this feels really strange because you're just not used to it. It does not take long to adapt. It's very snappy. There's a lot of travel. It's very snappy, and the keys are physically large. So, if I brought in that Surface again, the actual keys on the Surface are way smaller, right? They're significantly smaller keys. Here, they're very large. So as long as you are reasonable, like, I'm not even a touch typist, but I'm like reasonable with like that kind of typing, I'm always going to be in the center of the key anyways. Anyways, it's nice. Now, obviously, the trackpad is going to be a point of contention for some people. Some people won't like it, some will. Nice and centered and all that kind of stuff. It's huge. Like the area of the trackpad is massive. And some people would like a physical plunging trackpad. I don't. I'm not against a physical plunging trackpad, but I very much like a haptic trackpad. This one was a little weird. I've been using this just like getting it set up for the past couple of days, and it is a little weird to not have a physical, like, there's no idea where that is. Right? Like, when does it begin? I just guess. Over here, it's very obvious. There's literally like it's a very, very lightly raised little thing there. Right? Like, tiny little bump. And so it's very obvious when you're within here, right? Like, I can come there and my brain's like, no, you've gone over, come back, right? No different than using a trackpad that wasn't integrated into the palm rest. And like I said, it's a very nice, subtle click. And because it's haptic, there's no difference where you're clicking. Like in terms of how it feels, it's the same because there's a little motor in there that's clicking, right? It's not like a plunging trackpad where you click over here and it goes ka-tunk, and you come over here and it's menu, menu. There you go. So inputting to the laptop is not going to be the same as, this like another generic laptop, even just like another Dell. Grab another Dell if you're a Dell guy. Just grab like a Dell Premium or something like that and be like, oh, that's like a standard keyboard. And you come in here, this is very different even from that. But they haven't changed it. But obviously it works, right? Like if it wasn't working, they would change it, right? People would be like, I don't like that keyboard. And they would give bad feedback. I feel like people get into these keyboards and like, no, I want that keyboard. That's what I want. And I get it, right? I'm not used to it and I got the hang of it pretty damn quick. And I was actually worried about the keyboard. Being like, I don't know if I'm going to get used to that, but it did not take long. Now, calculating battery can be a little nuanced for laptops because just say you have a 255H and let's say this was the 255H, the same CPU. Theoretically, they should be about the same in terms of the CPU, what kind of watts they're using when they're doing tasks or when they're idling. But there's a lot of other stuff that goes into battery life. What type of SSDs are inside. Some use more, some use less. Screens are probably the biggest draw on laptops. If they're high density, high refresh, bright screens like this, for example, it's going to burn more watts. The screen literally just consumes power to be on, right? So that's something to be aware of here. But these are close laptops, I guess I would say here, so we can compare a couple things. So here's the CPU. This is a Panther Lake CPU, and we can see that idling, it'll go down to about, it'll actually go down to about half a watt, to be honest, when we're not really doing anything at all. So you can see here it's gone down to about half a watt. I just had to close down some programs. So idle is half a watt, not even 1 watt. Right, let's zoom in here. Not even 1 watt for idle. This system is still pretty good, but it's 3.3 watts, right? So Arrow Lake was a pretty big improvement for Intel because it's very powerful. The CPUs are very powerful on these systems here, but they idle pretty well. Like that's a pretty decent idle, right, for a powerful CPU. Then they also had Lunar Lake. Lunar Lake was their, previous generation to this kind of, and it was incredibly efficient, but it did lack a little bit of power, like raw power. However, look at the difference here. This is, we're sitting around 1 point. It'll like say now it's doing something. Windows is doing something, but it was truly idling at about 1 point. Yeah, some crap over here. 1.5 watt was what we were idling at, right? And this was 3.5. So that is several times more watts being used by the CPU on a 255H, which I consider to be efficient. See how quickly that dropped down to? Once Windows was done doing something, it goes back down to that idle state. That's another advantage too, right? Some CPUs, yeah, they can idle low, but their kind of spin up time is fast, but their spin down time is very long and drawn out. So it takes a long time for them to get down. Here, you know, Windows did whatever it was going to do. It did its task, whatever it was doing there. And now it's back to idle state, 0.5 versus 3.2. That's just the CPU. There's other things that are included with these systems. But just the CPU here is now pulling, I mean, that's like 7 times fewer watts, right? 6 to 7 times fewer watts, put it that way. It's very good, right? It's very good, especially for CPUs that are going to be similar in terms of performance. You'll see that in a sec here. But let's come down here, of course, now. So now what we can do from this is we can look at the like actual battery life, right? Of course, there's things going on here and that kind of stuff. But you can see here, right, we're averaging versus averaging over here. They might be kind of similar. Technically, this is a little bit lower, right? So even here, you know, the system just kind of hanging out, not doing anything over here. We're using about 3 to 3.5 watts, which gives us actually 20 hours, more than 20 hours, but just average, about 20 hours of battery life, which is crazy for a Windows laptop. Over here, right, we're using more watts, right? It's bouncing more because the CPU is doing stuff, but we'll sit it at about -6. It's usually around that, somewhere around there. It bounces around more. And you can see here, we're still getting pretty good battery life, but you know, here it's bouncing around a lot more actually. Here we're actually getting about 12 hours, right? 12 hours versus 20 hours. That's a big difference. That's a big difference. And this is why Intel is so impressive right now, because not only are they constantly innovating all of a sudden, you know, they went from the company that was like, we don't innovate, we just stagnate. And AMD was the ones who were innovating. And then AMD was just like, yeah, we're just going to sleep now. And Intel was like, oh, well, now's our chance, right? So now we have CPUs that are incredibly efficient, right? This is an Intel chip on Windows, and you're getting MacBook level battery, 20 hours. This is idle, but still, right? And this is with things turned on. The screen is at 1800p, right? High resolution, 120 hertz refresh. It's also not dim, right? Right? Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. It's turned up. I could turn it down. Some people turn it down. They're like, I need max battery. Nighttime, watching shows, that kind of thing. I don't think that's often realistic. I think most people use their laptops with the light on and in an office or something, and it's bright. And the laptop is bright. So you're using that. Look at that. It's very impressive to get 20 hours out of a powerful CPU. Now, of course, when you start doing things, they start to use power, right? So power will go up. But the other thing you need to consider is that when you have a powerful CPU, like a capable CPU, that is also able to idle, what happens here is it takes some time, you know, for a laptop to do something, right? If your CPU is powerful, then it's going to get to that task faster, right? So if you have a 3.5 watt CPU, but it's a very low end CPU, like an N105, it takes much more time and effort for that CPU to load something than one of these chips. It takes a very short period of time for these laptops to like begin their tasks, whatever they're doing, right? So that's the thing here. You need to realize that you don't only want like a low power weak CPU, because then, yeah, anytime you do anything, the CPU has to really work for it, right? We don't want that. We want the CPU to like just be like, yeah, I did that instantly because I'm powerful and I'm efficient, and then I'm efficient because not only did I do that not only did I do that task quickly because I have the power, I also did it with relatively lower power, and more importantly, potentially, is that then I got back to that idle state faster. Right? I did something, I went back to that idle state faster. So you can see here again, we're still burning half the number of watts on the system. Let's go back up here to the CPU. I'm just showing you this, guys, because yeah, I've had people ask about battery life and that, and like just like doing tests and like put out a bar chart and then like how long does it last? Well, I don't know what you're going to do with your computer. I don't want to mislead you. I don't like to do that. I want to show you what it's doing. So here, right, 3.5 to 0.75. All right, let's refresh this page. Refresh this page like that there, and we can click on the Dell Tech. They're not exactly the same page, but it doesn't really matter. Click on the Dell Technologies thing. Come over here. We'll click on artificial intelligence, then we should be on the same page. There's another pop up. Right? It's weird, they're like slightly different pages. It's really strange. It's really, really weird to me. All right, let's go back. Okay. So there we go. So we saw there what the CPU was doing, right? It went up and then went back down. It went up and it went back down. They're both going up in watts to do something, then they're going back down relatively quickly. Arrow Lake is still awesome. You're not going to find me being like, the new one is, the old one is crap because the new one is better. Well, no, the new one is better, like pretty much in every way, but it doesn't mean the old one is bad. Arrow Lake was always good. I used an Arrow Lake laptop myself, but look at how fast that went down it went down to like no watts instantly, right? So you're going to get incredible battery life out of this thing, because not only are you, you do something, the watts go up, then the watts go back down very fast, but to get that task done, it doesn't take much time because it's also a powerful CPU. Okay, so there's going to be monumental improvement in battery life between these two generations. So that's idle. We've already seen that, right? The full system watts was about 2.5 to 3 watts, just hanging out, just not doing much. That's fine. Now I did some just static YouTube, and when we're just buffering a YouTube video, again, this is the whole system being burned. It's still using 5-ish watts. 3.5 watts. So we're still getting, around 20-ish hours, right? Because it buffers for a moment or two, and then it just kind of sips power, right? So that's the system being used as well. And that's partway into a video as well. Like, that's not just, there's 2 seconds. That's into the video. So you're still going to get, 20-ish hours. I'd probably say, like, real world use, you're looking at 15 to 20 hours. Of course, if you are doing like heavy video editing on battery, it's going to die faster. But general use, where you would be worried about battery life, it's going to last for a very long time. So that's very impressive. Okay, now the next thing I want to do here, we're going to do some benchmarks, some performance benchmarks, look at the noise and thermals. Shocking, they're going to be very, very similar. So the actual benchmarks, like we'll look at the performance here. This is where things, they didn't make a huge improvement in raw performance on this chip, because this is not a successor to this, actually. People may think that, but this is an Arrow Lake CPU. This is a Panther Lake. Okay, let's get with these names here. Arrow Lake will have a successor soon. It's not out yet. It's going to be called Nova Lake. It's not out yet. Arrow Lake, Nova Lake. Mid-range power, mid-range efficiency. Well, actually, very efficient, but mid-range power, mid-range efficiency. This here is a successor to the Lunar Lake, the ones you could find in like those handhelds and that kind of stuff, which has maximum efficiency and reasonable performance, like good performance. The fact that these perform very similar is just because this is a whole generation ahead, right? All right, this is under full load here. You can see that they're pretty close. This, a few, like maybe 10% behind or something like that, but they're both very fast, right? 15,000, 16,000. Now, again, these are also not full wattage systems, just so you know. These are not even close to full wattage systems. This one can only sustain 25 watts under full load. You'll see that after, but as a result, you end up with not the peak performance on the CPU. I have this CPU in other devices, and it performs better, but they're also, slightly more powerful, thicker, and they run a little warmer, that kind of thing. Dell has tuned these, and that's fine. They always do that with XPS. They have tuned the XPS to be lower peak watt, which means it runs quieter and cooler, and that's just the decision they've made. But you can see they're similar, right? If you take the, the training wheels off this too, it'll also go up to about 20,000, and so will this. They get very fast. They're very close to each other. So the raw performance would be quite similar. And so you may look at that and be like, well, okay, so why am I paying this money to go from Arrow Lake? Like, see, these are now very close as well. This is balanced. Why would I pay this money to go from Arrow Lake up to Panther Lake, the successor? But they're not. This is not a successor. It may look like that because this is the new chip that's out, but the Nova Lake is a successor to this. There will be a successor to this that offers more power than both of these, for sure. I'm not sure how efficient it'll be. Probably not as efficient as this. Most likely. It'll probably be as efficient as this, right? So you're going to get this level of battery performance. So not as good battery, but still good. However, you're going to get a step up in performance. This here is going to be in their efficient lineup. So they have 3 ways. They have their maximum efficiency, middle efficiency, and full peak, like HX stuff. You get significantly better efficiency on that CPU, way better efficiency on that CPU, all the while maintaining roughly the same performance, which is a huge boost, right? If you're able to get the same raw performance with way less of a battery drain, much more efficiency, and a significant boost to the iGPU, like very significant iGPU boost, that's a win. Okay, now screens are something that are very important as part of this review because they're crazy. Previous generation, 3.2K by 2000, 120 hertz refresh, fantastic. They did slightly decrease the refresh this year, just a little bit. Not the refresh, right? The resolution. We went down from 3.2K to 2.8. So we went from 2000p to 1800p. Does it make a difference? Probably not at all. There's very unlikely you would notice the difference between 2000p and 1800p. These are both going to be very pixel dense. So in use, when you are actually looking at the screen at a 14-inch, like in the 14-inch category, I'm okay with 1200p. I won't smash it. I do not like 1200p above a 14-inch ever. It's It's way too blocky. But even at the 14-inch, I won't use it myself for personal use. I want to have at least 1600p. These are both higher density than even 1600p. They're at 1800p and 2000p. So they're going to be very crisp. Yeah, they're just going to look fantastic. They're also touch. They're touch screens, obviously, without screen door effect. Are you awake, Asus? Asus, wake up. Wake up. New video has dropped. Slandering you. It's not slander, actually. It's truth. Come on, Asus, wake up. Get into 2026. So let's zoom in here. What am I talking about here? Okay, it may show up like on camera or something like that, but there's no screen door effect. If the camera shows it, it's because it's picking up like something that I can't see. There is no screen door effect here. Screen door effect is when you have a hatching effect. It looks like you're looking through a screen door outside. A lot of these Asus laptops, when they are touch screens, they just can't. They are drunk or something, and they cannot fathom how to make a vibrant, beautiful touchscreen that doesn't have a screen door effect. It drives me crazy, right? Because I'll get a laptop from them, I'm giving a review, and I'm like, now I can't use this at all because it has a screen door effect. It drives me nuts to see a screen door effect. No screen door effect here. So despite the fact that this is a touchscreen, beautiful touchscreen OLED, you can't see the touch layer. Immediate yes. Now, let me get a different laptop because I want to show one other thing here. Now, these are OLEDs. And so the OLED is going to give you those absolute blacks. You're going to want to use like, black type backgrounds, that kind of stuff, because it's like, it looks good. It also conserves battery and that kind of stuff. But when you do that on a normal laptop, it's a mirror. Can you see me in there? Actually, you can't at all. I mean, I can't see myself that much in real life at all either, right? Look at this though. Look at this mirror. Look at this. Like you could just do your makeup in that. Like it's a literal mirror. There's me. Hello. This is a traditional glossy screen. I use an OLED laptop right now, an Acer OLED laptop right now, and oh my god, is that thing ever a mirror, right? A lot of the laptops out there that use OLEDs, and they're glossy OLEDs, are like a straight mirror. Like you're looking at, walk into your bathroom and look in the mirror, it's almost like that reflective. They have some type of anti-gloss coating here on this laptop, and I would call this best in class. Why am I saying best in class? Well, it is an anti-gloss coating, which significantly reduces the glare. Like there you can see my hand a little bit, right? You can see it, but it's barely perceptible. And in use, you won't notice it. But it doesn't mute the colors, right? Like you could get yourself an OLED that isn't like a true full anti-glare matte screen. And even me, who doesn't like glary OLEDs, I'll admit, yes, it does mute the colors a lot, actually. You get to the point where it's like, you pay all this money for this beautiful, vibrant screen, and there's a considerable drop in vibrancy, right? Here we don't have that. We have a bright, vibrant screen, as you can see here, reasonably bright. It's not a tandem OLED, but it is bright. Those lines you can't see, by the way. That's just the way my camera picks things up. So we have a bright, vibrant screen, high pixel density, high refresh, anti-glare, and touchscreen without screen door effect, and it has beautiful colors. Let's show you. Now, as you can see here, this is a gorgeous screen, right? So it has a high color space, meaning it can push further into the reds than a low color space screen. That's nothing to do with being an OLED. It just happens to be that, but you can get the same color space in an IPS. But generally speaking, with this one here, we have access to that very high color space, which allows the reds to become incredibly, like that is such a vibrant red, right? It is an incredibly vibrant red, bold and rich. When you are watching content, like watching shows, movies, playing games, doing graphic design, that kind of stuff, you want to be able to see the colors that exist, right? If you have a muted screen, you physically can't, the screen cannot show you those colors. So if you're watching this video right now on a non-100% DCI-P3 screen, right? You're watching it on a 45% NTSC screen, or even 100% sRGB screen. I'm sorry, you cannot see what I am showing you. You are incapable of seeing the colors on your screen that I am seeing on this screen, because I'm showing you a screen that has very high color space, and you are then trying to see that on a low color space screen. If you have yourself like a nice phone, if you're watching this on the phone, most phones have good color space these days. So, if you have a laptop or something, maybe click over to your phone real quick right now and just kind of see what these colors look like, because they are so good. And this is my camera trying to capture this. Cameras always mess up colors. They can't capture what the human eye can see. And here's the other thing. This is about what I see right here, right about there. This is an OLED screen. So OLED means that you're going to get absolute blacks as well, right? So these pixels are physically off. In a really dark room, if you turn off all the lights and you really have a dark room going on an IPS screen, that's where IPS struggles, because the blacks are not blacks. There's actually light coming out of them. So in a dark room especially, the IPS becomes very apparent that you're looking at an IPS because it has a bit of an IPS glow. That's what they call it. The blacks can't be produced well. In a bright room, you can barely ever tell, especially if it's glossy. Sometimes never. Sometimes you can't tell, but in a dark room, you absolutely can. And here we have that. But the other thing is, when you watch me do my reviews, go back and you see the sections where I do these OLED screens, and I do this section here, it's a freaking mirror here. Like, it literally, you can see the camera and you can see my face, you can see me talking. You can't see me right now, and I can't see me. If I move a lot, I can kind of see myself reflected in there. That's how impressive this is. A crazy screen. So Dell has decided to put arguably the nicest screen I've ever used in this thing. I don't know who makes their screen, like the manufacturer. I know Dell makes screens. Like, they sell really nice screens as well, like actual computer screens. This is one of the nicest screens you will ever see in your life. Those greens are also incredibly vibrant because we're in the DCI-P3 color space. So here's the thing, 120 hertz refresh rate screen. Beautiful. 1800p, so super pixel dense. It's an OLED with absolute blacks. However, they have decided to give it exceptionally good reflection handling to overcome those issues. It's a freaking touch screen, but it doesn't have a visible touch layer giving it a screen door effect. I can't even give it a 10 out of 10. It gets a perfect score. Absolute perfect score on this screen. It is literally, if someone is like, give me money and I will give you the perfect screen for what you do, and this is what I would expect to get back from them. It's a crazy good screen. All right, let's move on. Now, this section here was supposed to contain an audio test, but I was foolish enough to trust another online YouTube creator. So here's the Lo-Fi Girl YouTube video stream. And, you think that they, of all people, would be honorable. They give you a full write-up on their website that says as long you can use their stuff on your YouTube, and as long as you give credit, which I do always in the description, perfectly aligned, exactly as you're supposed to do, it's free to use on YouTube, and they encourage it, in fact. But then what they do is they then go and make copyright claims. Not copyright strikes, just copyright claims, which they're attempting to siphon money then off of videos. And I confirmed that the copyright claim is actually made by them. And other people on Reddit and YouTube and that kind of stuff have found the same issues where they do this. So don't trust other YouTubers and this kind of stuff. And you look at these lo-fi people and it's like, oh, they're doing a nice thing, they're promoting people. No, they just want your money. So this section here did have a really nice audio test, but if I publish this part here, it'll immediately get demonetized. Well, not demonetized. They will then take all money and proceeds from my video, which is bullshit. So anyways, the conclusion that came from this was that this XPS has actually legitimately incredibly good audio. Some of the best speakers I've ever used on a laptop. You'll have to take my word for it, or go into a Best Buy and try it. But rest assured, the audio is so good. Okay, so it's 2026 now, and some fanboy is like, you have to have NVIDIA or it's not able to play game. And then everyone who knows the alternative of, yes, you don't need NVIDIA to play game anymore, comes out and says, yeah, you're wrong. So this here has the Intel Panther Lake top iGPU. Come in here, let's put that on there. We don't need the whole like afterburner kind of thing. Top iGPU. What does that mean? Well, I've been reviewing lots of handhelds, gaming handhelds, dedicated gaming handhelds, and everyone in the market of the gaming handhelds is shocked. They're like, Intel has come out all of a sudden, they're matching AMD. There's plus minus, there's different scenarios, but they're generally speaking matching AMD's best here. We're at the point now where a whole generational boost over the previous generation where, before we were compromising, we were getting, you can play games on these handhelds and on these laptops with the iGPU. And, you're playing at, 720p, or you're playing at 1080p low, maybe some scaling, that kind of stuff. Well, that's not the thing anymore, right? We'll rival an RTX 4050 in gaming. I've already proven this. I've already shown it. In some cases, the RTX 4050 will be faster. And in many cases, this will be faster. Why? Because we have unlimited VRAM, technically, right? We're not limited to that 6 gigabytes of VRAM. We can allocate whatever we want. I gave it 16. And you can see we are using a lot more than 8 gigabytes of VRAM. Very much more. when we get there. So we come here and play some settings. Now this is Resident Evil Requiem. I'm doing this game specifically because it is not going to overinflate the numbers. So there are lots of games that Intel does incredibly well on, right? So you come in and you play Arc Raiders. Arc Raiders, Intel just does so well on Arc Raiders. Like you'll be getting 150 FPS or something like that. It'll just be disgusting, right? And then that's good. If you play Arc Raiders, you're going to be like mind blown. But I don't want to make this game. I don't want people to think that every single game is going to run at 150 FPS. So we'll come in here and we'll go with there's multiple settings here, right? There's low, there's ultra low, that kind of thing. Let's try normal, right? Again, this is actually a title where AMD does much better than Intel, significantly. I mean, Capcom games don't even have XeSS, just so you know, like at all. So XeSS is way better than FSR, just so you know. FSR looks like crap, by the way. FSR 3.1. We have access to XeSS. Let's just turn it off. So we could use that. We'll go to a game that has XeSS in a minute. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. And here you go, right? We're getting an easy 45 FPS on low, medium. Sorry, not even low, not low S. There's two settings below this one, and there's no scaling. And there we go. Now that the performance has kicked up, we can see there. Now, this chip here in this system here is not a full wattage. It's only 25 watts. It only says 25 watts. If you had this chip running at 35 watts, it would offer more performance in gaming. However, you can go back and watch my 1X player tests with the B390. There is what I would call there's a I don't know what I call it, like inflection point where your chart comes up. And when you hit 25 watts, it starts to level off. And yes, there is a performance gain going above 25 watts, but it's not hugely more performant. It's not hugely more performant. It will perform better, but it's not like at 100% frames. So this is 1080p native, no scaling on medium. There is still low and lowest below this. There are two settings below this, and we are still getting around 60. It'll probably drop here because of all this chaos. This is the worst test for the CPU. Not only is this a game that is not favored on Intel, but this is a brutal scenario here where we're slamming we're slamming the CPU and the GPU at the same time. And look at it. We're getting 55 FPS. Bro. Be respectful. Be respectful. I don't want to hear the glaze or the anti-glaze. We're getting above 50 FPS static, around 60 FPS gameplay on a brand new title, demanding title, in a brutal scene with all kinds of stuff going on. NPCs running. This is a CPU and GPU heavy area. That's why I picked it. I don't want to just pick a CPU heavy area or just a GPU heavy area because that would be cherry picking. And not only that, I picked a game where it doesn't even have XeSS. It's not even an Intel favorite title. It's an AMD favorite title. And look at it. Come on, guys. I'm being serious here. Like, you have to respect it. You have to respect it. Also, where's our VRAM? 7.0? 7 gigabytes of VRAM being used. 7. What does that mean? If you try to run this on RTX 4050, it won't work. You'd be getting frame rates of like 3. I actually used this game to prove that point on a different laptop. I took this chip here, I put it at these exact settings are very similar, and I tested it versus the 4050, and the 4050 was getting like 3 FPS because we were hitting a gigantic VRAM deficiency. Oh, and now we're gonna test an Intel agnostic game, meaning it doesn't run poorly on Intel, it doesn't run better on Intel, it just runs as it should on Intel, whereas Capcom RE engines, I wouldn't say they run bad on Intel by any means, but they definitely run better on AMD specifically. They don't have scaling like XeSS. This does have XeSS, and we're going to use it because XeSS is very good tech. It is much better than FSR 3.1. We can use more of it. It will look better even if we use more of it, and it also provides a performance boost when you use it on top of the scaling because it actually has a hardware level benefit. Yeah, so this is medium 1200p. Period. No scaling. 45 FPS. When I play this game on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, there are three modes. There's a performance mode that runs at 60 if it can. Quality runs at about 50 if it can. And there's a balanced mode which runs at about 45. We're getting better than that. We're getting 45 to 50. It's about what I play this game on balanced mode. This is no scaling, by the way. That's how I play this game because it does balance the fidelity of the game with performance. That being said, we have XeSS. XeSS is like that that Joker card that you have up your sleeve. You're not supposed to put to the game secretly, but you did. XeSS will look very good, and you can do lots of it. Absolutely no issues with fine lines. That's another benefit of XeSS, right? Foliage stability, no Vaseline effect, massive performance boost. This is a gaming computer. Yeah, it's not actually a gaming computer because when I define my computers, gaming computers focus on performance and thermals. The other things are secondary. The niceties and all that are secondary to performance, thermals, gaming, like gaming. They focus on performance. There are hybrid use laptops, which are kind of in between. They focus on being nice, also having good performance, kind of right in the middle. Hybrid type stuff, creator style laptops. Then we have straight up like premium consumer, like Ultrabook type stuff. They're actually not gaming laptops. This is actually not a gaming laptop. I'm just being sassy. Because it doesn't focus on, peak performance. It's only giving 25 watts to the CPU, the APU. It's balancing quietness and premiumness over performance, right? It's like they could give it 35 watts, but they said, no, we're going to give it 25 watts, which, yeah, decreases the performance, but it runs quiet and cool, right? So they did that by choice. However, because of Panther Lake, it is also a gaming capable computer. Not just gaming capable. We're not looking at 1080p, ultra low, terrible max scaling, and we're getting 30 FPS. That's not where we are anymore, right? Because of these Panther Lake chips that have the B390, you have unlocked gaming performance with respectable settings. Another thing that I do, this is how I actually play. So I put it on low, and then I turn things up. So I actually turn foliage up to high, which is a big demand on the system. I turn textures up to high, and I turn materials up to high. This actually makes it harder to run technically, but it looks better. So a lot of the textures, a lot of the things you look at, the foliage, let it load in, the foliage, the texture on the people, everything looks better now. So it looks better. It might perform a little worse when you do this, but it looks better. You can actually use more scaling. I wouldn't actually use this much scaling, to be honest. It's just not necessary. Normally I just throw it on like quality or ultra quality. Just quality is typically what I do. Again, you can use more because it's XeSS. It won't look bad, but I just throw it on quality and just play it for 60 FPS, whatever. I don't need that. Just quality of scaling, just a touch of scaling just to get me up to those higher frames. Again, it ran at 45 to 50 without scaling, so whatever. You don't need it. But if I can throw on a tiny bit of scaling that I visually cannot tell is on, and I give myself 20 FPS, 25 FPS, give myself over 60, yeah, I'm going to do it, obviously. This is not a hot take. This is one of the nicest laptops I have ever used in my entire life. I bought this. This is a 2026 Dell XPS 14-inch. It is so refined and such an improvement over the previous generation that it blew my mind. XPS has always been Dell's premium consumer, truly premium consumer lineup. You get all the refinements and that kind of stuff, but I was finding them to become a little bit stagnant. Not that they were bad, but they were doing the same thing. It's an XPS and it's the same thing every year. They have maintained a lot of the XPS things like the keyboard and that, and the built-in full trackpad, full palm wrist trackpad embedded. But they refined so much on this laptop this year. I'll put some links in the video description down below. If I can find any affiliate links to Best Buy or something, I'll throw them down there. I bought both of them. This thing is crazy good.